Go Chiefs. I don't care how much you hate them. Go Chiefs. So I am speaking today on the simplicity of, or the wonder of influence is what I'm talking on. And normally when I agree to speak at something like this, train or something, you get this guide and it's training and all this stuff, and I looked at my guide and it's like, your story. I was like, I just have to tell a story? That's great. So I'm going to tell you my story, and I hope there's like a clock somewhere that tells me when to shut up. Perfect. So, about me. I'm going to do what Jamie said not to do. I'm married. I have 6 kids, 5 boys and a girl. I'm also, sorry, that's where the mic is. I'm also one of 6 kids, the only girl. I have 5 brothers. So I did the same thing to my daughter that I did to that I was. So I grew up with boys. I don't know how girls work. So in about 2014, I bought, my house stunk because I had 4 teenage boys and 1 bathroom. It was gross. I'm just saying, it was gross. So I went on Amazon and I bought, this wax warmer because I didn't want a candle because they had to burn my house down. And I bought this warmer and I bought some cheap wax and I was like, cool. And I didn't know how it worked. I was just like winging it. And then my friend who's sitting over here in a red shirt, because she likes the Chiefs too, she's like, I sell Scentsy, and I was like, okay, I'll borrow a bar just to be nice. And I'm like, $5 a bar was $5 back then. I'm like, $5 a bar, I can't afford that. I was, 6 kids. Let me tell you how much 4 teenage boys eat. My grocery bill back then was $1,200 a month, twice as much as my mortgage back then. So like, I couldn't afford Scentsy. I thought that was ridiculous to spend money on Scentsy when I could go to Walmart and get it for $2. But I bought this bar and I put it in and I just kept waiting. And I'm like, when is this bar gonna stop smelling good? When is it gonna start smelling like crayons? And it didn't. It never smelled like crayons, which all of the other wax I tried smelled like crayons eventually, and that's how I knew to change it. And it lasted 6 days instead of 1. So I was like, okay, well, let's do the math. For those of you that don't know me, I'm a numbers person. When Michael Borg said, who likes to run reports, that's me. I love spreadsheets, I love the reports. How many of you are in US tax dollars and cents? Great, I love to see hands, that's me. I'm the one on there yelling at you about your taxes and building you spreadsheets so you can track your expenses because I love that stuff, okay? So I did the math and I figured out Scentsy's better. It's better bang for your buck. So I started buying it and I was like, awesome. And then I felt guilty for buying it because I was spending about $30 a month, which isn't a lot, but again, 6 kids, we're poor. I wasn't working because I had 2 little ones at home too. So I was just stay-at-home mom. And every time I would go pick up my Scentsy, I would talk to Michelle forever because she's like the only adult interaction that I had in my life. And I loved her. She was so sweet, she was so nice, and she was somebody that I wanted to be like. And so she's like, you should have a party. And I'm like, I'm not doing that. I'm not cleaning my house, I'm not making food, we're not having a party. I grew up in a direct sales type world where everybody had tried Avon and Tupperware and Amway and all the different things. I did not believe in it, okay? I did not believe in it. It was a scam. Only the people at the top made money. This is what I believed. So I was like, no, not having it. Eventually, I had a party because my mom needed to have surgery and we needed to make some money, and I was told, well, I can donate my commissions and you can have this fundraiser and make some money for your mom. So I have a party. People showed up. That was number 1. I was like, whoa, y'all showed up. This is great. Then we did a $1,200 party, my very first one. And so the consultant that I did it with wasn't actually the consultant that I bought from because my mom had agreed with a different consultant to do the party. So I did this party and $1,200, totally got that consultant certified. And then we go to put the orders in and she didn't have any clue how. So I was like, well, come over, I'll help you. We'll figure it out together. So I got on her workstation. I am not a consultant. And I helped her put all the stuff in. I'm like, what's this perpetual party reward? And she's like, I don't know, let's call somebody and ask. So I started calling my consultant and asking her, what is all this stuff? She's telling me about it. And I'm like, by the end of putting all those orders in, I had all this free stuff. And I'm like, what? You mean I can get all this wax for free? Cool, I'm in. So I didn't care about making any money because I didn't believe you could make money. I was like, I just want wax for those stinky boys and their rooms and their bathroom. So I called her up and I joined. And again, I had what you just heard, a fixed mindset. I did not believe you could go anywhere. So I get this kit and I'm like, okay, I have 90 days worth of everything that I need to run this business. And I was like, I'll do whatever you say. So I called Michelle up and I'm like, what do I do? And I didn't actually really call her up. I'm very much a self-learner, so I was on the workstation going, what do I do? And I read everything and I did everything and I had the launch party and I'm like, nobody's gonna buy from me because I just did a $1,200 party and now I'm having a launch party 3 weeks later and I did $1,500 at that launch party. So I was like, this is really cool, guys. I like this a lot. I have a lot of really great smelly stuff. So now I have all this smelly stuff in my house and all those people that came to my party are like, are you gonna use that? Can I buy that? Are you gonna use that? Can I buy that? And I'm like, sure, this is great. So I started selling this and then all of a sudden I have like this little cash bag at my house and people are coming by and then my husband's like, I don't have any gas money. And I'm like, oh, here, I paid for gas. And then I paid for groceries and I'm just like, I'm paying for stuff and I'm a stay-at-home mom. You know, like I was proud because I hadn't been in the workforce for several years because I've got all these kids. And it gave me a sense of self-worth. Okay, so that was the first thing that I got from Cincy was this sense of self-worth. Not that being a mother doesn't give you a sense of self-worth, but let's be real, they can be sassholes. Mine are, they get it from me. Parenting is hard. So, you know, Cincy wasn't as hard for me and I was like, this is great. So then I live in Kansas City, go Chiefs. We had that SFR, that clip that you just saw was from Kansas City SFR. That was my very first in-person event that I went to because I lived down the road. I even had a parking pass for my job that I had by that time so I could park for free and go to it. And like, I didn't have to pay anything, it was great. So I go to that and Heidi gave that talk. That was the first time I had ever heard of growth mindset or fixed mindset. And I was like, every time she talked about fixed mindset, I'm like, that's me. Oh, that's me. And she talks about running away because of your ego, to protect your ego, that's me. I have a huge ego. It will push you out of this room. Like, that's me, okay? So I'm sitting there and I'm like, well, I have been making money. Can I do this? And then she talked about what changed it for me, my light bulb moment. She said the word yet. And if any of you were there, she had this cool little graphic with the word yet. And it was all these things. I can't recruit yet. I can't party yet. I can't whatever yet. So I decided that day that I was gonna change my mindset. I was no longer gonna have a fixed mindset. I was gonna figure out how to have a growth mindset. At that time, I did have a small team. I think I was a leader star consultant. I had 4 or 5 people on my team, whatever. Right after that, they launched an incentive for spring. It wasn't the big incentive, it was the littler one that they do in the spring. And I was looking at the requirements, and one of them was 500 PRV every month for the incentive, and I was like, I got that. I like numbers, so the first thing I did when I joined was look at the compensation plan, and I figured it all out, and I was like, what's TWV, what's GWV, and what's the difference? And I'm sure that I really annoyed my upline by asking those questions, because they're like, I don't know. But I figured the compensation plan out really, really good, and I knew that if I wanted to do anything with Cincy, I had to have 500 PRV, no matter what. If you're a lead consultant, a superstar director, you have to have 500 PRV. So way early on, I was like, I'm gonna get 500. Who needs 200? 200 is small potatoes. I need 500 PRV every month if I wanna get paid more. And I always want more. So I already was doing that. I had already implemented whatever systems I had and follow up and done the things so that I knew I would get 500 PRV per month. Not a problem. The other thing was this recruiting thing, get 3 people certified. I had like 3 people on my team. So I'm like, how am I gonna do this? So I'm like, okay, growth mindset, what do I do? And I actually went and I sat down and I read through it and I'm like, how am I going to recruit enough people to get this incentive and get them certified? So the first thing I did, I'm very analytical. My brain, Cassie, who you'll see later, yesterday I was talking, she's like, I can't keep up with your brain. That's my mouth too. So I sit down and I figure all this out and I was like, what's holding me back? And what I came to, the short version is fear. Fear of whatever. Something I was afraid of was holding me back from recruiting. And I got in my head and I was like, how do I get over the fear? How do I get, and I gotta figure this out in my head so that I can move forward. And for me, it was human trafficking my kids. You're like, what? Did I hear that right? Yes. So I'm like, okay, if I have a growth mindset, that means I can do anything that I want to do. Okay, but I can't recruit people yet. How do I recruit people? I'm having this conversation with my head. I'm like, what's the most important thing to me in the world? Okay, my kids. Somebody human trafficked my kids and sent me a note, because they're really weird human traffickers, sent me a note that says, I'll give your kids back if you can recruit 3 people this month. Can I recruit 3 people this month? You bet your butt I can. Because it doesn't matter anymore. I'm not afraid of what they're gonna say. I'm not afraid if they're not gonna be my friend anymore. I'm not afraid if they're gonna make fun of me. I'm not afraid if they're gonna think I'm in the middle of a scam. I don't care, because all that matters is getting my kids back, right? So, okay, a bit extreme. That's me. But I'm like, okay, so I now know that I can do this, because if my kids were at stake, I could do it. So I started recruiting, and I made a plan, because somebody told me if you want to earn an incentive, you got to make a plan, you got to put it on paper, you got to work it. So I made a plan, and I made this cool little sheet, and it had like 3 lines, because I needed to get 3 people to certified. In those next 4 months, I recruited 16 people, and 12 of them got certified, and I still didn't get annual mentor. Still working on that one, but I can. I haven't gotten it yet.
Yes.
I have not gotten it yet. Someday, I will be able to be like, I got annual mentor. And I'm gonna shout it from the rooftops, because that's my big goal that I'm still working on. So I did that, and I finally believed I can do this. My mindset shifted. Heidi influenced me. She went through all of this stuff. She is this amazing person who doesn't believe that she can run Scentsy, but here she is running Scentsy, and everybody cries every time she opens her mouth, and they love her. I would love you to cry when I open my mouth sometimes, but no, don't. She influenced me. And then at another SFR, they gave us these assigned seats, and somehow I ended up sitting between Tracy DeMario and Katrina Brunk, who is my star director and my superstar director. And I was like, peon still. And not that, okay, sorry, that was not, that's not the right word. I was not a director yet. That was still my goal. I was not a director yet. So I was still like, and I would have never thought of sitting next to these ladies, because like they're intimidating and all the things, right? So I'm sitting between there, and this lady at the SFR we were at, I believe it was Austin, I'm not sure. She's like, look to the person to your left, look to the person to your right, those are your joy buddies. I was like, okay. And they're like, you have to message them, you have to tell them what you're doing, and you have to take joy in what you're doing. And I was like, I just got an excuse to talk to Tracy DeMario and Katrina Brunk. Yes, right? Like, I was so happy. So I start talking to Tracy, thinking, oh, she doesn't have time for me. She's got thousands of people on her team. She ain't got time for me. If I had to pick best friends in this room, she would be in the top 5 now. Because this woman, out of my Scentsy influence, obviously like people like my mom are like my person influences, but as far as Scentsy influence goes and person influences, this lady over here, Tracy DeMario, is right at the top of that list, right at the top. I have seen her bend over backwards, be humble. Every time that I want to rip somebody's head off because they're being dumb, I call Tracy. She has this amazing gift to say things nice, but still tell them, hey, you're being dumb. I don't know how she does it, but you know what I'm talking about, right? She's amazing at this. Like, she can make you still like her when she's telling you you're doing it all wrong, you're dumb, fix it. So I start going to events with her, and I start, going to these things and talking to her and messaging her, and somebody hurt my feelings, so I'm crying, and I'm like, I'm gonna quit Scentsy because this isn't worth it. She's like, no, you're not. She talked to me. She built a relationship with me. She cared about me. And, I'm not necessarily that big earner on her paycheck. I will be someday, yet. I joke that I pay for Joe's butter. Joe is a chef, and he likes to cook, and apparently he spends a lot of money on butter and olive oil. And a lot compared to me. And so, I'm her third person down, and so, a certain percentage of what I make is directly affected her check. So I'm like, I made you enough to buy Joe butter this month.
Are you trying to move up to the Corvette?
Yes. Someday, Joe will call me and be like, I got a Corvette because of you. And someday, Joe, I promise. Hopefully not before you die. Hopefully. Joe also is a great influence, but in a completely different way. My point in telling you all this, like, what does my story have to do with you? How does what I went through affect you? What are you going to do later today that's going to make your whole business better? I went from star consultant to aha moment, Heidi told me I can do this, to star director. Hundreds of people on my team, not thousands yet. But I made the change. My life shifted, my business shifted. You have to decide, who do you want to influence you? Is it the person that's getting online and complaining about Scentsy because they don't have enough dryer sheets? Do you want that person to influence you? Because I don't care about that person. I'm like, sorry, you should have told your customers to buy them and hurry. We have setbacks. I am standing up here and I had multiple organs removed 2 weeks ago. I have been like a zombie since September. I was really sick the entire month of September, kept going to the doctor. They couldn't figure it out, we figured it out. Softball-sized tumor. So I just got through major surgery and I said yes to speaking here before I knew I was having surgery. And so I kind of did it halfway, sorry about that. Janae was really great. There will be setbacks. It is really hard to do the Arkansas State Fair for 2 weeks when you're dying inside. It was really hard, but I still did the Arkansas State Fair. I was there for 2 weeks. It was great. I love Arkansas. Go Arkansas. Also go Chiefs. Y'all buy a lot of Cowboys warmers, and I'm always telling you to get the Chiefs one. It's better. You will have those moments when you're burnt out, when you don't want to do this anymore, when it's not worth the drama, when it's not worth the money, whatever. Don't quit on a bad day. Put your boots back on. That was another thing I got at SFR, is put your boots back on and get back out there. Get your ask in gear. I recruited those people because I knew I had to in order to get what I wanted, and because I stopped being afraid and I asked them. You're never going to talk to people if you don't talk to people. So whatever your fear is, whatever you're holding back, find something that can influence you to be better and go do it. Don't just think, just go do it. You can and you will. And that's pretty much all I have to say. Get your butt on the